Imagine a utopian society where you are, like, absolutely forbidden from correcting your peers, just completely banned from doing it.
Right, which sounds chaotic already.
Oh, it gets better.
Yeah.
A place where casual physical intimacy is considered this high spiritual act, but traditional monogamy. Strictly banned.
Yeah, that's a wild combination.
And oh, you are officially required to maintain a literal binding peace treaty with demons.
I mean, it sounds like a contradiction, right? Or
Yeah.
just a very strange science fiction novel.
Totally.
But the historical blueprint for this exact community actually exists, and it attempts to completely restructure the way human beings interact.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. Today, we have an exceptionally strange and honestly utterly captivating source in front of us.
We really do.
It's a 2009 manifesto. It's titled, How Should We Establish the Peaceful and Warm Homeland? And it's written by a figure named Shui Feng. So the mission for our deep dive today is to unpack this highly specific manual, which was designed for a group of people called the Chanyuan Celestials.
And we aren't just going to look at the rules they follow because, the rules are fascinating, but we want to look at the underlying mechanics of this text.
Right.
Because when you read this manifesto closely, it reveals a massive calculated experiment. The entire document is organized around one central thesis, which is, how do you engineer human friction completely out of existence?
Okay, let's unpack this. Because they do not start small with this idea.
No, not at all.
Like to eliminate friction, they start with the ultimate cosmic goal. The text explicitly states that the objective of this homeland is to build a model lifestyle to bring humans out of suffering.
But it goes way beyond just earthly suffering.
Exactly. The manifesto claims that by living in this zero-friction environment, the Celestials will basically pay off debts they've accumulated over multiple lifetimes, and eventually they'll earn the capital to, quote, come and go freely in unlimited time and space.
Which, forces us to ask, how does planting a garden and just being nice to your neighbor mechanically pay off a cosmic debt?
Yeah, how does that math work?
Well, to understand that, you have to look at how the text defines debt.
Yeah.
In many Eastern philosophical traditions, karmic debt is created through attachment and conflict.
Okay.
So every time you argue with someone, every time you manipulate someone, or even when you form an intense exclusive bond, you create a karmic tie. You're tethering your soul to the material world.
So friction is the tether.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Friction is the glue of worldly suffering. So the text's logic is that by engineering a society where you never argue, you never scheme, and you never assert your will over someone else, you just stop generating new tethers.
Oh, wow.
And by serving the community selflessly, you burn off the old ones. Eventually, you achieve this sort of total metaphysical buoyancy, basically. You float away into unlimited time and space.
That is just, it's brilliant. But what's fascinating here is the ideological foundation they build to support that mechanism.
Yeah, it's quite the mix.
Right. To get people to completely stop arguing, the author, Su Feng, demands reverence for the greatest creator. But then he lists a pantheon of figures that members must also consider themselves followers of.
It's like an all-star team.
It really is a spiritual Avengers team. He lists Jesus the Christ, Buddha Sakyamuni, Celestial Lao Tzu, and Prophet Muhammad, plus, a fundamental reverence for nature.
Right.
And when I first read that, my immediate reaction was honestly skepticism.
Sure, because it sounds impossible.
Yeah. If you try to combine every major world religion into one system, don't you just water them all down? Like, you can't adhere strictly to Christian theology and Buddhist theology simultaneously. The mechanics of those faiths contradict each other.
They absolutely do contradict each other if you are trying to build a cohesive theology.
Right.
What's fascinating here is that Zhu Feng isn't engaged in theology at all. He is engaged in behavioral engineering.
Oh.
Yeah, if you read the text carefully, he's basically extracting very specific utilities from these figures. He argues that the homeland must fully deploy the love of Jesus, the compassion of Buddha, the natural alignment of Lao Tzu.
Okay, I see where this is going.
He strips away the complex, argumentative doctrines that people usually fight wars over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he just weaponizes the central figures as an absolute baseline for human behavior.
Oh, wow. I see. It's not about worshiping them all perfectly. It's about setting an unarguable standard.
Yes, exactly.
So if you try to start a fight with your neighbor, the guide can just point to Buddha and say, hey, is that compassionate?
Yeah, it completely removes your ability to justify bad behavior using religious loopholes.
Because everyone is just focused on the overarching vibe of peace.
Precisely. It is a highly calculated piece of social design. By claiming all the major profits, you neutralize the biggest historical source of human friction, which is religious debate.
Which brings us perfectly to how this zero friction mandate applies to the outside world, because engineering peace inside a vacuum is one thing.
Right, that's the easy part.
Exactly. But living on a planet with 8 billion other people who do not share your views is a completely different puzzle.
Yeah. How do you market a utopia without creating friction with the very society you are trying to recruit from?
Well, their strategy here relies on a concept of radical non-interference. And this is where the text introduces a really wild detail.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
It's so weird. It mentions that members must stick to the, quote, 800 values for new era human being.
Yep.
But the manifesto just drops that number 800 values and leaves the reader entirely guessing as to what most of those values actually are.
Which is brilliant, because that ambiguity is not an accident. Think about how a system of rules functions mechanically. If a leader gives you exactly 10 rules, you know the boundaries.
Right, you know where the line is.
Exactly. You can step right up to the edge of rule number 4 without technically breaking it. But if a leader tells you there are 800 rules and you only know a few of them, what happens to your behavior?
You just second guess everything. You have to constantly self-police because you never know when you might be violating, like, rule number 412.
Exactly. It creates an internal panopticon. You police your own friction out of fear of the unknown boundaries. But, returning to how they handle the outside world, we do know the rules regarding conflict.
Right.
They are explicitly forbidden from promoting their values through arguing, disputing, struggling, or battling.
And they use these highly poetic metaphors to describe how they're supposed to grow their movement instead. They say, quote, fragrant flowers attract butterflies.
I love that line.
Me too. The mechanism is entirely passive. You just exist, you perfect your own life, and people will naturally be drawn to your fragrance. They also use the phrase, when a melon is ripe, it falls off its stem, meaning you never force anyone to understand or join, you just wait for their natural timing.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture of our modern society, we have to look at why a passive strategy like that might actually work.
Okay.
The text insists they will never claim to be the only correct one. They even explicitly state they won't disturb governments or political parties, citing the phrase, let 100 flowers blossom.
But let's test that logic for a second. Think about your own social media timeline right now listening to this.
It's a mess.
Right. In a world completely dominated by viral outrage, loud arguments, and algorithms designed to reward attention-seeking, can a movement actually survive by just sitting quietly and waiting to be noticed? I mean, from a conventional marketing standpoint, being quiet is a death sentence.
Well, from a conventional standpoint, sure, yes. But consider the psychological climate of the target audience. We're experiencing mass information overload and just profound conflict fatigue.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone, all day long, is being yelled at to believe a certain narrative, to buy a certain product, or to hate a certain political party.
We are just exhausted by the friction.
We really are. So the psychological appeal of a community that promises it will never argue with you, that explicitly refuses to tell you it have the absolute truth, that becomes a remarkably powerful draw.
It's like the ultimate anti-pitch.
Yes. It doesn't sell you anything. It just offers an oasis from the exhaustion of modern discourse. The silence is the hook.
Okay, so they have engineered friction out of their external marketing. But what happens when you apply that same zero friction mandate to the people living inside the gates?
This is where things get really intense.
Yeah, because the non-interference goes all the way inward. And honestly, it extends to the supernatural.
Yeah, this is where their pacifism crosses the line from standard nonviolence into something entirely absolute.
It really does. There is a specific line in this manifesto that is just impossible to forget.
Oh, I know the one.
It dictates that they respect life so thoroughly they refuse to hurt flowers, birds, insects, human beings, and, quote, demons and ghosts and all sorts of evil spirits.
It's incredible.
They are officially extending a peace treaty to literal demons.
And mechanically, what does that achieve? It establishes the upper limit of their philosophy. It is not conditional pacifism. It is a complete structural refusal to engage in conflict, even on a metaphysical level.
Wow.
By legally mandating peace with demons, the text is telling its followers there is no enemy, visible or invisible, that justifies your aggression. And if you won't fight a demon, you certainly aren't going to raise your voice at your neighbor over dirty dishes.
That makes so much sense. And they take that neighborly peace to a severe extreme.
Yeah.
Inside the homeland, the text states there can be absolutely no blaming among brothers, sisters, and lovers.
Right.
And crucially, no educating each other. You are strictly forbidden from pointing out someone else's flaws.
Yeah.
The primary directive is to perfect yourself first and only demonstrate your own genuineness, goodness, beauty, love, faith, and honesty.
I mean, think about your own workplace for a second, or even your family group chat. If you were structurally forbidden from pointing out when someone made a mistake, how would that function?
Honestly, I would lose my mind. If someone is doing something wrong, the natural human instinct is to just correct them. But I guess if I physically cannot correct them without breaking the core rules of the utopia, the friction stops immediately. I just have to swallow it and focus on my own work.
Precisely. They're completely amputating the horizontal power dynamics that cause daily resentment. You just cannot manage your peers.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. The text actually anticipates this. It says, bear in your mind that in Lifechanyuan, education and instruction is the guide's business, not yours.
Yes.
And the guide is the author, Xu Feng. It claims there are no leaders, no governing, and no being governed. But structurally, it functions like a classroom where the students are legally barred from helping or correcting each other, and only the teacher is permitted to speak.
This raises an important question about the architecture of utopian communities. On the surface, Xu insists this isn't a political party, and there is no leading or being led.
Yeah, that's what he claims.
Right. And by forbidding peer-to-peer correction, you immediately execute the goal. Gossip, interpersonal drama, and petty power struggles just disappear overnight.
Because the mechanism for that drama, giving each other feedback, has been totally removed.
Exactly. But look at the vacuum that creates. By reserving the sole right of education and instruction for one person, the guide, you manufacture a massive vertical power dynamic.
Oh, yeah.
When peers cannot regulate each other, they become entirely dependent on the single point of authority to resolve any real issues. It claims to be leaderless, but the intellectual and spiritual monopoly is concentrated entirely in the hands of one individual.
It is brilliant but kind of terrifying social engineering. You eliminate the friction of the crowd, but you do it by making everyone look exclusively forward at the guide.
Right.
And speaking of regulating the crowd, we have to examine how this manifesto attempts to engineer friction out of the most complicated human dynamics of all: romance, intimacy, and labor.
Yeah, these are always the stress test points for any utopian vision. How does a society handle sex, and who takes out the trash?
The manifesto's approach to intimacy is built on a massive paradox. It begins by stating that in the homeland, sex is open and free. It uses lovely language, calling intimacy an advanced and beautiful dance of two souls with same values. It insists it shouldn't just be about animal desire. And it is incredibly strict that there can be no seduction, no threats, and no forcing your will on anyone. Total consent, total freedom.
But to maintain that freedom, they implement a deeply counterintuitive prohibition.
Yes. The text states that forming new, stable, exclusive relationships, what it calls special bonds, is strictly forbidden.
Right.
If you are already married when you join the community, that historical contract is respected. But once you become a Chanyuan celestial, you cannot form a new, permanent, monogamous bond with another person.
So you are granted radical freedom to be intimate, but you are completely barred from exclusivity.
I struggle to visualize how this actually plays out day to day. The closest parallel I could think of is like an emotional gig economy.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. You are essentially an independent contractor of affection. You can take on as many collaborative gigs or intimate encounters as you want. The environment encourages it. But you are legally barred from signing a full-time, exclusive W-2 contract with anyone.
No permanent mergers allowed.
Exactly. The community will not allow you to form a permanent corporate merger with another person. And just like the gig economy, if you don't produce your own labor, you don't survive.
And that is the second half of the paradox. The text is totally unforgiving regarding labor and freeloading. It bans selfishness and laziness outright.
It states very clearly, quote, every celestial should pay off the debts, accumulate merits, and create a beautiful future all by himself.
Right.
You can't just move to the commune and soak up the good vibes. The homeland provides the environment, but it does not fix your life for you.
One must be responsible for his wrongdoings and take the consequences, the text says. And if we look at the mechanics of why they forbid exclusive romantic relationships, it directly supports this strict rule on personal labor and responsibility.
Oh, how so?
Think about why monogamy threatens a utopia. Exclusive bonds create factions. They create jealousy, favoritism, and what Xu Feng accurately describes as the swirl of secular world.
Drama. Pure, unfiltered drama.
Exactly. Think about how a traditional couple operates. If push comes to shove, your primary loyalty is to your partner, not the broader community. You will hoard resources for your partner. You will take their side in a dispute. By banning exclusive pair bonds, the homeland ensures that every individual's ultimate loyalty is never divided.
That makes a lot of sense.
It remains entirely directed toward the collective community and the guide.
That is wild.
Yeah.
They allow the physical act of intimacy because suppressing it creates friction and frustration. But they ban the structural relationship because monogamy creates tribalism.
It is a staggering balance they're attempting. They are offering you radical personal freedom in your intimate life, but in exchange, they demand intense individual responsibility for your labor and your spiritual growth. You eat the consequences of your own actions, and you belong to everyone and no one simultaneously.
You belong to everyone and no one. I mean, that strips away all the traditional safety nets we build for ourselves.
It really does.
We rely on our exclusive romantic partners to catch us when we fall. We rely on our cliques to back us up in arguments. This text rips all of that away, leaving only the naked individual and the rules of the collective.
It forces you to stand completely on your own 2 feet, which aligns perfectly with their goal of burning off karmic debt. You cannot tether yourself to another person to save you.
So what does this all mean? When we zoom out from the specific, bizarre rules of these Chanyuan celestials, the hidden 800 values, the peace treaties with demons, the emotional gig economy, how does the underlying logic apply to you listening to this right now? I think it asks a really piercing question about the source of our daily exhaustion.
It forces us to audit our own friction.
Exactly. Think about your typical week. How much of your stress is actually generated by trying to manage other people?
Oh, probably most of it.
Right. Trying to correct your coworkers, arguing with strangers on the internet, or forcing your will onto a situation that you just cannot control. What would it mechanically feel like to adopt even a fraction of that fragrant flower approach? To literally just stop arguing, to stop trying to fix everyone around you and solely focus on perfecting your own side of the street.
It's a highly challenging thought experiment,
Yeah.
especially in a culture that rewards interference. But the manifesto leaves us with a final, concluding paradox that pushes this even further.
Oh, yeah.
In the closing lines, the text states, to be selfish, you have to be unselfish first. To be somebody, you have to be nobody first. The secret of becoming celestials lies in here.
To be somebody, you have to be nobody first. That's powerful.
Consider that against our modern sensibilities. We live in a society that constantly commands us to build our personal brand, to stand out, to make our voices heard, and to assert our individuality at every single opportunity.
Yeah, totally.
But this blueprint suggests the exact opposite mechanism for fulfillment. It challenges us to ask, could the ultimate secret to actual happiness, to truly becoming somebody of value, require us to completely abandon our desperate grip on the concept of the self entirely?
That is a massive idea to carry with you. Can you ever truly be a flawless part of a community while fiercely protecting your own ego? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into a truly unexpected blueprint for living. Keep questioning the structures around you, keep looking for those surprising new perspectives, and we will catch you next time.